Now, Porry,
Yes.
when we left you last week,
Yep.
you were
Just
just about to hit the fucking insano-meter on the boys' story.
yeah, I just got started on season 3. So we'd mainly focused on season 1
Yeah.
and 2. Yeah.
You hadn't met Soldier Boy yet.
No, not back from the
You
dead.
yeah, you definitely didn't think that motherfucker was still alive.
Well, yeah, I didn't know that.
You didn't. You'd barely started Black Noir's story.
Yeah.
Billy had only taken Temp V the once.
Yeah.
How you feeling, bud?
Well, it felt like it all went wrong very quickly in season 3.
Uh-huh.
Feels like all the control that Vought had quickly started falling apart. um, yeah, there was a lot of twists and turns that I really wasn't expecting. I have a feeling I remembered, like, as I was learning that Temp V was lethal, I was like, I feel like I remember Connor mentioning that, like, they.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know if you have the answer, but are we now to, like, Billy wasn't meant, like, I feel like it was, like, meant to be the person like, oh shit, he's just died because he's taking too much Temp V. Is it now a situation of like, are we expecting it to be he can't take any more, or that's him dead, like he's on his last chance?
I think we are supposed to take it of if you use this drug again, you are likely to die. Because what it allows them to do is have one in the back pocket for if they really need it,
Hmm.
plot wise, but it stops them relying on it for narrative reasons.
Okay. Because that was also seeing that progress, and I mean, getting Billy's a little bit of Billy's backstory when he got put into the like nightmare. That was also very cool to see and
Uh
learn more
huh.
about his brother and what happened and what led him to there. And then him stopping Huey by just knocking him out in a bathroom to rather than telling him. Uh, but yeah, we got Black Noir where we'd last talked. I'd seen the flashback to like the war,
Yeah.
and it's shown.
Was it Vietnam?
I think it was Vietnam or wherever they were stationed doing this drug stuff, and it was like we'd seen the old squad there, and then everything went like shits up, and the last thing we'd seen of Black Noir in that flashback was half his face had been burnt, and you're like, oh shit, a rocket had been like the shit had exploded and gone wrong. Basically, kind of my thought was like, oh shit, he got like fucked up with a rocket. That's now like he's burnt and scarred. That's why he wears the mask and covers up because also the whole he's a black guy, so like, well, we can't show your face. But the reason like he never got to eventually take off the mask is because he was like badly
Yeah.
scarred. Wasn't expecting Soldier Boy to be alive. Wasn't expecting Soldier Boy to be Homelander's dad.
Yeah.
Um, and then there was the whole twist of what actually happened in Nam or whatever, wherever they were stationed. And that it
Yeah.
was actually them all trying to kill, well, not kill Soldier Boy, but knock out Soldier Boy and sell him off, essentially.
Yeah.
Because Vought had Homelander in training wheels.
Yeah.
And
And they
yeah,
didn't think he'd step aside.
yeah, and we
I think
learn,
Jensen Ackles fucking smashed his role in The Voice. Because
yeah,
Jensen Ackles, who I think is quite a likable guy,
mm,
playing such an unlikable character, I was a little bit like, this could go one of two ways. But he nailed it. And like some of the interactions they had where he's like, and you know what the crazy thing is? If they'd have asked me to step aside so my son could be in the lead and
mm,
light, I'd have happily stepped aside for you. And
yeah.
it's really interesting because, like, while you're like, oh, that's sweet, at the same time, I'm not completely sure I believe him.
Well, it's also like you're knowing what Homelander's like. You're like, ah, shit. If they would make the worst duo.
Yeah,
Like, that just would be the worst people in charge.
100%.
Uh,
Um, so the big thing I wanted to talk about was Black Noir's story, especially
yeah,
that episode where you get like the animated one
yeah,
where it breaks it down and it shows you just how messed up Noir is.
yeah. It's quite clearly it's like PTSD, and it like from getting just absolutely face melted, like what's going on in that head of his.
Yeah,
I thought that was very cool when he's like sat in there. And I'm like, oh, there's like he's seen cartoons. It's obviously like just PTSD, so like shit. And then it's like, oh, he's come up with like a whole cartoon of
he's got his own Looney Tunes
yeah,
going on.
like the soldier boy and everything. And then it's like it starts showing what happened in the cartoon. I actually think that was more brutal way of showing it, watching the
It was
cartoons get fucked up.
absolutely a more brutal way because it has such a rough. Because like with the boys, you're expecting to see gory and like
Yeah.
outrageous stuff. So to get like this break away from that, where you see this light-hearted cartoon
And then
and
it
have
just
it be
goes,
just as brutal,
yeah,
it gives you that contrast that makes you go, "Oh shit,
yeah,
yeah, no, that's not good." Um, and Black Noir went from being this fuck Black Noir, he's just as bad as the rest of the seven. In fact, he's worse because he just sits there happily and doesn't worry and does it all.
mm.
To then find out how traumatized he
And
is
yeah, he's
just
just
so
actually just
interesting.
living in fear.
Yeah, 100%.
Um, but yeah, the whole Black Noir thing was very interesting. I enjoyed that. I'm trying to think what else went down.
What
Oh,
did you think of Herogasm?
I now understand what you meant, where you kind of expected it to be even crazier.
Yes. For
Like,
how crazy it was built up to be with everything around it, I don't think it stood out as that outrageous compared to the rest of
no,
the show.
I feel like it started off in the right direction, because obviously you get Mother Milk like walking in. He's like, "Oh my god, what just ended up on my jacket?" And then he opens the
Yeah,
door and gets absolutely just drenched. Like everything is like, okay, this is some wild, crazy shit going on. And then it's like it kind of just ends there. Other than you see
yeah,
Deep with the octopus, that's the only
yeah,
other crazy thing that happens. It then obviously becomes about like, oh shit, shit's about to go down here.
yeah. You obviously have the massive fight
Yeah,
between Homelander and Soldier Boy and Butcher, and then Starlight and Huey are there, and Mother's Milk's there. It's fucking chaos.
yeah,
There is something very badass about Mother's Milk there, ready to fight Homelander without Temp V,
yeah. You don't give a
without
shit.
backup. He's like, fuck it, let's
I
do
think I
this.
think the best bit was when he threw the gas at Soldier Boy, and Soldier Boy's like vapes it
Oh, yeah,
essentially. He's like, "Oh, this is
yeah,
some good stuff," and he's like, "Ah, shit, that didn't work." Uh, but yeah, the I was also the moment that I think Homelander finds out Billy has uh powers,
yeah,
not understanding how, but he's like, he obviously zaps him, and he fought, and then he comes back up, and he's like, "Wait, what the fuck? How are you alive?" Um, and I think that catches him off guard. But yeah, there was some good fights.
100%. The fight choreography was a lot better in this season, I feel.
Um,
Um, and then I think one of my favorite subplots was the radicalization of MM's daughter's stepfather. I
yeah,
forget his name. It was a bit on the nose, wasn't it?
yeah. It,
And somehow, even in season 3, certain people don't realize that they're the butt of that joke.
mm, it's funny because it's like you watching it obviously happen from when you look back, it's like, oh yeah, he was into soup stuff, he dressed up as Homelander. He slowly was becoming more and more like going like reading shit on Facebook. Like what genuinely happens with like Trump supporters. And it's like then they just refuse to like they're being told the truth and they're like, no, no, that's not possible. It's clearly this bullshit the media is feeding me is the truth. And it's like, no. Um, and then obviously at the end when Homelander zaps the
Yeah.
protester and he's just like, yeah,
Oh,
like that's
yeah.
a What?
Yeah, and then this is the thing. It was genuinely. I remember at the time on Twitter, it was a bit of a bit of a thing. It's like, yeah, we can all sit here and laugh at this, but it's genuinely getting to the point where I
This
feel like
happens.
Trump could just pop someone in the head with a gun and people would cheer for him.
Probably. Well, it's more than there's more people than just Trump. There's so many
Yeah,
people nowadays where it's like they have such cult followings
yeah.
that they could get away with that shit.
I genuinely believe if all of the stories about Jimmy Savile were to break for the first time right now,
Oh,
that people would just instantly dismiss it.
some maybe. It's wild. Um,
Yeah, I genuinely like. I see that as a problem. But I
oh,
mean, just the way it does everything is so interesting,
there was
and obviously you
also
get the little bit right alongside that scene where I forget the boy's name. Just kind of looks around. He's like, oh, so this is what power feels
yeah,
like, and you just see that
yeah.
shit-eating grin.
You see his son. I think that's also the worst thing. Is like there was still hope through season 3. Like I know I was like, oh Billy, you've been a dick to that kid. Um, that you fucked up there. I'm like, this kid's gonna hate Billy, but at least he's like in a place where he's being brought up right. But then it's like, no, Homelander's managed to get in there now, and we're seeing everything that we still hoped this kid wouldn't become. This kid's becoming, and it's like, ah, shit. Well, that's going to be a problem for the future.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
there was also so many like obviously by this point, I'm expecting people to backstab other people and
Yes.
like twists. And you've got the congresswoman backstabs her adopted dad, who was
Yeah.
CEO of Vote. You get um obviously Starlight goes to her friend that the one that joins the Seven, and gets him to be like, oh, we've got this plan to get rid of Homelander. He then makes the dumb idea to go to A Train, of which then A Train backstabs him and gets him absolutely just destroyed because
Yeah.
A Train only cares about staying happy with
Yeah. And
Homelander.
if I go and help Homelander out right now, he'll stop being mean to me and calling me fat. Yeah.
Yeah. Then you got the Deep, who wants to include an octopus in his relationship, so his wife then backstabs him. Um, After he's
It's
just constantly trying to get his approval off Homelander.
yeah, it's an interesting series. I think one of the most jaw-dropping moments for me was I think it's at the end of Hero Gasm when A Train kills the racist superhero.
Yeah.
And then you find out either at the very end of that episode or the beginning of the next episode, he got the guy's heart.
Yeah.
And I'm just there
It's
like,
like such
oh
a
my
fucked up thing to
god.
do.
A Train was literally willing to die to kill this racist piece of shit. And now he's got his heart in his chest.
Yeah, that was. Oh, I forgot about that. Yeah. So at the end of everyone's like coming out of Hero Gasm after it all went shits up. And then he's like, he confronts him. And then as soon as he started running, I was like, oh, he's going, like, this guy's dead. I was like, this guy's
Yeah.
just going to be ground to a paste. And then obviously he stops and he starts having a heart. I'm like, oh, he's killed himself to do that. Well, that's one way to go out. At least you don't have to deal with the consequences. And then he's woken up. He's like, oh, you were trying to rush him to a hospital and save him. And it's like, Vought knows exactly what happened. They know what
Vaught's
that,
PR department is so good.
and yeah, and it's like, you know that they realize that that guy was like a racist piece of shit. But then it's like, they're so concerned about public image that they don't give a shit about the fact that they're putting the racist guy's heart into A Train and what that would do to someone mentally. And they're just like, oh, we can spin this into a great story. And then obviously he has to deal with that now. Um, yeah, I mean, overall, The Boys was great.
Yeah.
Obviously, I knew I was gonna enjoy it, and it's just one of those things where like I kept putting it off and off, partly to just spite you at times. But then once you'd watched Rebels, I'm like, ah, shit, I now have to. Like, it's only fair.
Yeah.
Um,